Governor Brian Kemp joins us now. Governor, I want to begin with what Senator Lindsey Graham said on Fox News last night about safeguarding the vote in Georgia. Watch.
I'm begging the governor to call the legislature back in session, make sure that when it comes to verifying signatures on mail-in ballots, that it's done bipartisan, not a single individual in a county office that may have an agenda that's partisan. That's a simple fix. If you do that, you're probably going to save Loeffler and Perdue from a lot of fraud.
Governor, would that process look like that? Would it be a simple fix?
Well, Laura, welcome to Georgia. We're the red wall to stop socialism, Pelosi, AOC, and everybody else. And I'm really glad to be here with you to try to help my friends David Perdue and Senator Loeffler. You know, I called early on for a signature audit. Obviously, the Secretary of State, per the laws and the Constitution, would have to order that. He has not done that. I think it should be done. I think, especially with what we saw today, it raises more questions. There needs to be transparency on that. I would again call for that, and I think in the next 24 hours, hopefully we'll see a lot more from the hearings that the legislature had today, and we'll be able to look and see what the next steps are. But that's what's good about where we are now. Because of the recount that we're having in the state, it allows those things to be looked at.
Now, what could you do now to tighten up this mail-in ballot process? Could you call the legislature back into session just on those fairly narrow issues about verifying the signatures in the mail-in ballot process? Because you offered an interesting suggestion this week.
Yeah, and I know that's what Senator Perdue was talking about earlier, about everybody kind of looking at their options. Obviously, I think the fastest way to do something would be through the courts, which is why I've also supported the president's, certainly his rights to take legal action during the recount.
He's mad at you. He's kind of mad at you. He's torqued at you, right?
Well, I know, but look, I'm frustrated like he is. A lot of people are. The president, as I said many times, he's a fighter. You know, we've had a few battles, but nobody worked harder for Donald Trump before November 3rd, and I've continued to support his efforts in the campaigns any way that I legally could post the election, and I'll continue to do that. And one of those was supporting the legal process to play out.
But could you bring that legislature back into session just on that issue? And for people who don't understand what we're talking about, when someone sends in a mail-in ballot that they filled out, there is no real way to check the signature on that ballot in some cases where there's not a significant match, right?
Well,
you think it's a good idea to send a picture of a license in with the ballot.
I definitely support the photo ID requirement.
Wouldn't that be good? You do that in person, correct?
I definitely support that. You know, we've talked about doing that in the past, and for legal reasons, the reasons we haven't. But there's been a recent court ruling, I think, out of Alabama that in the future that's something that I would certainly support working with the legislature on. I think right now is trying to figure out the fastest way to assure that the vote is going to be secure, because, you know, it's like Lynn Wood saying today, urging people not to go vote in this election. All that is going to do is give the Democrats everything they want. It's going to give the radicals everything they want. I mean, this is literally the firewall. So I think we all have to pull together and figure out what have we got to do to assure people that their vote's going to count. I believe that it will. That's why I'm working so hard for David and Kelly, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Turning to today's Senate hearing on voter fraud, listen to what one poll worker claimed to have witnessed, Governor.
They will wait until the witnesses over there in that roped-off area, the press and the observers, leave the room. Then you'll see them move into action and begin scanning ballots. Once everyone is gone, coast is clear, they are going to pull ballots out from underneath a table. I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table.
Now, Governor, the testimony today, which networks weren't running, except a few, was incredibly eye-opening. I was disturbed by this. I'm sure you were disturbed on hearing it. These were just patriotic Americans coming forward. A lot of them, they're afraid because they came forward. When you see that, do you understand why the president and so many others are worried?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, certainly what today was concerning. I think, you know, we're working right now, and, you know, hopefully the Secretary of State will update us on exactly what was going on. I've heard they had a monitor there. I think it'd be good for him to come out and say exactly what was going on. But I think this also gives him an opportunity to really look specifically the Fulton County recount that's still going on, to make sure that that recount is being done in the right way, and that we know, if these were ballots, were they counted correctly, if there were signatures on the absentee ballot.
But in the middle of the night, they kicked the observers out, and then they went back and kept looking at ballots. They're finding them under the tables. I mean, this is like a banana republic. I'm telling you what people are saying about that.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I think,
and if it were happening for the Democrats, they would be screaming about holy hell about this.
They would. And that's why we need to get answers from the Secretary of State about exactly what happened. Obviously, they should be investigating this. I would imagine they already are. If they're
State senators were they were agog listening to this testimony today.
Well, look, this is how the process is supposed to work: is we play along post certification and into a recount, and certainly the legal options that are out there for any candidate that has something like this. And I certainly support that. And we're really looking into that hard tonight.
All right, I want to take an audience question from Christian Zim. Christian.
Thank you so much. So Governor Kemp, thank you for being here. So there's been a lot of blaming in the Republican Party in Georgia since the election. Aren't we playing into the hands of the Democrats with all of this finger pointing? Shouldn't we unite as a party and focus on the Senate runoffs instead of blaming one another?
No, great question. And I think I answered that earlier today similarly, because I told people, I said, this reminds me of my days playing high school football, being in two-a-day practices in August, where you have your friends that are playing on defense. I played offensive line. You're sick and tired of beating up on each other. You're mad. You start fighting. But then right before the big game and the season starts, everybody comes back together, your buddies again. And that's what's going to happen before this runoff. I mean, we have to have that happen to support Perdue and Lefter. We cannot let the Democrats continue to drive a lot of this divisiveness. And I'm certainly going to do everything I can, my family as well, to send David and Kelly back to the Senate, really to preserve the great things that have happened in Georgia under the leadership of Donald Trump.
I mean, what's your unemployment?
Economy.
Your unemployment is what, 4.5%?
4.5%. It dropped 1.8%, I believe it was the last thing. We had two great economic development announcements this week. The response we've had to COVID, the way we've positioned that, the way this administration has worked with all governors across the state to give them the tools that they needed to reopen businesses, to help our hospitals with surge capacity. They reauthorized the 502F today.